My husband and I have 6 children, 3 boys and 3 girls. When we first got married, that wasn't my plan. I was thinking I was going to be a singer and I was going to travel the world, and I wasn't sure if I was going to have children. But again, God sent me a moment. God is always sending those moments that if you're ready to receive them, will really change and impact your life. But I was talking to my friend Tiny Sue, and she had just had a baby, and she said, "When are you going to have your first one?" And I said, "Well, I don't know if I'll have any." She said, "Oh, you're going to miss out on the very best." And that was all she said. It was that simple. And that darted me and in my heart. And I thought, you know, I know she's right. What am I thinking? So I set out and I thought, no, I'm going to start having children. And then I got a second friend, Deborah, that gave me a book by a woman named Mary Pride, and it was called The Way Home. And I read that book and I realized that I had sort of, without even understanding or knowing it, not consciously, but somehow I had bought in to this idea that you should only have 2 children. And I began to think, where did that idea come from? Well, now I have a very deep historical idea of where it came from because I've studied that phenomenon. That why do we in America think we're doing the world a favor to only have 2 children? And right now, the major nations of the world are in a demise. We are not procreating enough to replace ourselves. And so I began to see that that wasn't God's edict. So my husband and I began to pray and say, you know, let's just pray and see what God would bring us in children. And the more children I had, the more I came to understand that when you have a big family, you're not just creating mom and dad and the son and the daughter. The replacement theory that you'll have a son and replace the dad, you'll have the daughter to replace the mother, and thus the world moves onward. No, I didn't buy that. So we began to have children. And I began to see how beautiful a family is, because my mother, who had 4 of her own, said, when you have the 4th one, it's no harder than the first 3, that you just keep adding and they're not any harder. And I found that to be true. Because by then, the family becomes its own society. I felt like I'd have to put up a sign-up sheet by the time I had the 4th and 5th and 6th, because I rarely ever got to hold them. No, we all fought over who got to hold the new baby. And you have all of this help, and that's what the family is all about. It's a wonderful, wonderful entity. I home birthed. I nursed my babies for extended periods of time, and that creates literally a chemical bonding between the mother and the child, and that bond then later translates when the child goes out to find a spouse for life. And one of the problems we have in our society is a lack of bonding. We're fragmented. By the time a young girl gets married, she may have gone through a dozen boyfriends, and all she's learned is how to bond and break up, and bond and break up. I didn't want that to be our paradigm, so I didn't do that. And so far, God has visited us on that in every way. My children that have gotten married have married the person that they dated, the very first one. And it's been a wonderful thing because we bond. Having a large family, I highly recommend it.